Here's your chance to check out My Disney Brain and stay in touch and in tune with all things Disney and Walt Disney World. My Disney Brain, we take a brown-eyed perspective on all things Disney, park updates, news, movies, and more. Sign up today. Stay in touch, stay in tune with Walt Disney World and all things Disney.
Okay.
Hey guys, and welcome to My Disney Brain podcast. Today is October the 20th. I just don't know where the time is going. October the 20th, and our West Coast connection is with me today. So hello, Ruby.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy and excited to have you back. I know we talked the last time. We have a number of things that you and I want to talk about and do podcasts on. So this is installment 2, and of course, you're at this point you're a regular guest and you're part of the crew. So we'll have you back as much as we can. So hang tight for a second, and we're gonna jump into some really exciting topics with Ruby. If you wanted to travel Disney-wise, if you wanted to do cruise Disney-wise, and of course, if you want to do the land, Disneyland or Disney World, Ruby's going to guide us through, because she's done all of that. And she's done it with little people. And so we're going to talk that through her top 3 favorite Disney vacations. And you're going to get to hear firsthand experience how she accomplished all that. And her and her husband, I should say, accomplished all that. And you will have a better understanding in terms of how to proceed should you want to do that once the podcast is done. So that's the value of listening today. For those first timers, we appreciate you joining us. We're glad you found us. So go ahead and lock us into wherever you're currently listening to make sure that when the bells goes off the next time, you know that My Disney Brain is uploading new content. And our core listeners who come back week after week and month after month and continue to support us, thank you as always. I want you guys to hang out because I don't know when I'm going to do this, but we've got merchandise that we're going to be giving away. I didn't say anything to you about it, Ruby, but we finally have merch. So we feel like we're official. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I was excited when I saw it. We redid our logo a little bit and kind of jazzed it up. And our podcast host provides a integration, if you will, with a company that provides merch for podcasts. And so we're really excited to launch, some T-shirts, masks, sweatshirts, because it's not cold here by any means, but the temperatures are dropping. So people will probably want to matriculate into hoodies and things like that at some point. And we have all of that. So cool beans. So guys, we're going to just kind of jump into it as Ruben and I were getting on today to begin to broadcast. I would assume it happened within the last hour or so, Ruby, in terms of some news from Disneyland. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's going on since you're our West Coast connection? What have you heard, within the last hour? And I've got an article too we can kind of fall back on, but what have you heard so far?
So for those that haven't heard the difficulties that the West Coast has been facing with the reopening with Disneyland. Disneyland had announced in July that they were going to reopen, but given regulations from the state and also just where we were at with the current pandemic, that was stopped. Another layer of that was union issues with the cast members. So over the last 2 days, there's been conversation about the governor going and releasing the requirements that the theme parks would have to abide to in order to reopen. So that has been sent out as of about an hour ago. And there was leaked guidelines. So some of us kind of knew what was in the guidelines previously, but now it's official. And I think the 2 big things that stood out to me are, number one, in order for the larger theme parks to open, Disneyland, Universal Studios, Knott's Berry Farm, they have to be in the yellow tier. So that is less than 1 case per 100,000 people in order for that county to open and have theme park access. That was the big one.
Right, because they're currently in what tier?
I believe it's red in Orange. I have to check.
No, you're right. You're right. They're currently in the red tier.
Yeah.
and it's a little problematic from getting to red to. I feel like we're in that, oh my God, you remember the Bush years of the the terror colors,
Oh yeah.
the red and all that stuff with 9/11. That's what I feel like when we're talking about these colors. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just double check what I said about the number, but the second big thing that has me a little bit rattled is, in order to have access in the initial opening, if let's say the county is somehow able to get to the yellow tier, access to the park would be limited to people that live in that county. And
Yeah, I read that.
Deal, because what does that
Yeah.
mean for folks that are going to usually, like the people that were going to stay in the hotel? That's one of Disney's packages, right? To have
Yeah.
early morning access, to have proximity to the park. So I'm very confused about that one. And I think that's what rattled a lot of the folks on the West Coast previously, because even people that live in California, if you're not within that proximity, like let's say you're, up a little bit farther north in San Francisco or Sacramento, or even in the middle of California, and you usually drive down, now you can't go into the park. I don't know how that's going to fly and what that means for the hotel.
Well, you're exactly right, because I read that, I want to say close to a month ago. I read that and I said, even when this is going to reopen, they're only going to let the people in that county go. Yeah. Listen, the 28,000 that we talked about a week or so ago on the podcast that went from furlough to actual layoffs.
Oh, yes.
I think a lot of that obviously has to do with, here's my take. Here's my 2 cents. And I don't have data to support this. This is just my gut feeling. I've not read this anywhere, so you don't quote me, but this is Kelly. Number one, the parks make the majority of their money from people who travel outside of that state to come to it. People who come from overseas, people who come from Michigan, and you don't live in Florida, you don't live in California. People who travel, they take part in the hotel reservations, they take part in the park, they're buying tickets. They're not annual pass holders, most of them. If you live in India, chances are you're not an annual pass holder. Now, I'm sure people who live in India probably, maybe some are, but for the most part, if you live in Orlando and Kissimmee and you live in, I don't know, maybe even Miami or Tampa, chances are you could be an annual pass holder. Same with the counties that are close to Orange County. So when folks go to the parks and they only live in that county, the parks do not reap the biggest benefit. Why? Because most of those people are annual pass holders. They're only going and they're maybe buying some merchandise, or maybe they're buying a little bit of food here and there. But the parks suffer because you don't have the influx of the ticket purchases along with the hotel reservations. Again, this is just me. I live in Atlanta. I'm not an annual pass holder. So when I go, I get the whole shebang. And I'm eating out. Like, I'm not going back to my house after I leave Magic Kingdom, right? I'm not going home. I'm going to the hotel and I'm going to actually eat somewhere. And Disney gets all of that. And I think with folks who are close, the annual pass holders, they're going to be the first one that wants to go back. How do I know this? Is because Disney is trying to limit them with these blackout days. They want to get people that are actually going to buy tickets. So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you're exactly right. I heard that information almost a month ago, and certainly it's going to impact their bottom line.
Agreed. I saw a report. I don't remember if it was KTLA, but they were saying that so far there is analysts that are doing reports saying that because Disneyland has lost over $2 billion just Disneyland from what closing.
I believe it.
Exactly. And I did see a quote from the mayor, and I saved it, the mayor of Anaheim. And what he said, Harry Sidhu, mayor, city of Anaheim, these guidelines fail working families and small businesses. As painful as this is, Disney and the city of Anaheim will survive. But to many Anaheim hotels, stores, and restaurants will not survive another year of this. Many are family businesses. The jobs they provide support other families. We can safely and responsibly open our theme parks and convention centers soon. The unions of the Disneyland Resort agree and support the reopening of the theme parks in Tier 3, not Tier 4, which would wipe out jobs in our city and destroy lives. He released that shortly after the guidelines came out.
Yeah. It's listen, I get it that you want to err on the side of caution. You want to protect lives. Believe me, because there's been a gross miscalculation across the nation in regard to protecting people. I get it. I think the analogy I used last podcast was we were doing news and I said, you know what? Florida's like being in the car with that person that's going way too fast. And in California's like being in the car with the person that's going way too slow. You're like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like Florida, literally in Florida, they took off all the guidelines. Like there are no guidelines anymore. You can go to restaurants can do whatever they want. And in California, you're saying, okay, you can open up, but maybe you only let 500 people in or 25% or whatever. And you're saying, I hear myself, so I'm about to stop this conversation. But the last thing I'll say is this. The need for a national standard, very obvious, because Disneyland, as we all know who are Disney folks, Disney nerds, is the last of all of the Disney parks that are still closed. And I believe that the people that go to Disneyland, I don't want to say anything about Disney World because I'm a Disney World person myself, but Disneyland people are super passionate about that park and they want to support it. They don't want to see anything negative happening with it. And I believe that people will conduct themselves accordingly in order to support the park reopening. And my hope is shedding, at least a little bit of good light on this, is that it will reach the requirement in terms of the tier and it will perform along with Universal and the other parks, Knott's Berry, et cetera. And there won't be cases coming out. And I think the guidelines will be lifted. And I hope that's done quickly so that families can continue to, put food on the table and work and these sorts of things, because we forget behind the parks being closed. Yeah, we want to go and we want to have fun, but somebody works there and somebody, would like to have their job back. And cast members are awesome, awesome folks. And we support them at My Disney Brain. So whatever it takes to get those folks back working safely, we certainly support it. So. Yeah.
Safely for sure. Kelly, let me put you on the spot.
Okay.
Question for you. So you said that you go to Disney World every year for your birthday. Okay. Mm-hmm. Around the holiday season. Yep. Now Florida is open. Okay. And I go to Disney World too every New Year's or Christmas. Right. Here I'm gonna attempt Disneyland, but what are your thoughts? You have the option to go. What are you thinking?
Well, I have been thinking about this, as you can imagine, since COVID became a thing in late January, early February, because I knew then it was going to impact. I thought, like you said, your video, the first video I saw of you, you were talking about, I just thought, if Disney would be okay, this wasn't, but when Disney wasn't okay, I knew this was a real thing. I felt the same way. And so I said, okay, this is a big year for us. And I thought, man, this is going to impact what we do, even if we go at all. So I just kept watching it. And of course, we all have ridden the wave of COVID information and misinformation. I think we're now where we have some level of understanding. Having said that, Florida's wide open and Walt Disney World is open. All the theme parks are open. Not all of the resort hotels are, but that wouldn't impact me going. But to your question, this is how I'll answer. I haven't officially canceled my hotel reservations. I make them every year. At the beginning of the year is one of the things I love doing. It gets me started off on the year on the right foot, and it gives me something to look forward to. So those are still in place. What I have not done, which is what I would have normally done by now, is, of course, purchase my passes. So I was talking to my wife not long ago, and I said, well, she asked me questions you asked. And I said, the way that I feel now, we're not going to go. And I'll tell you why. I watch probably a blog a day about Disney World. Because in my office where I work, I just have a TV going. I usually put it on YouTube and watch people who are at the parks as background noise. What I've noticed is this. Number one, the crowds are getting fuller and fuller.
Yes. People
They're
are saying
getting fuller and fuller. And Ruby, I don't know. I shouldn't say that because you probably know more than I do. But there's no more fast pass.
I heard that.
There's no more fast pass. Well, at least now there's no fast pass.
Right.
So couple that with a much fuller park and a earlier close time. It's Magic Kingdom's closing at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. 9-hour days if you're lucky.
And it's opening at 9. It's not like it's open at 7 or something. It's like Universal. It's closing. So for me, okay, I tend to tell my daughters are not in the studio to guide me through these long stories I normally tell, but I'm going to tell you the story because I know you haven't heard it before. They've heard it and they'll tell me to skip on. But I'll tell you this. I may still do it, but a year or two ago, I was seriously about to pull the trigger to buy a place in Kissimmee in Orlando because I just love being down there. And then my daughter was in a college program and I found myself in Kissimmee quite a bit. And I noticed I started to feel a little different about being close to the parks. I felt like if I lived there, I wouldn't feel as excited as I normally do when I come to Orlando. So I kind of pulled back on the realty side of it and said, I don't want to lose that feeling I have when I come to the parks, because that feeling is what I look forward to every year. When if I'm flying in Orlando, when I hit the ground, and everybody knows this Instagram site, when you go over and there's Harry Potter store on one side and the Mickey stores over here, and they've got those background. I'd love to see that when I'm walking through the airport. I know something's good about to happen. If I'm driving, as soon as I hit the crest of the city and I see a certain overhang and I know I'm in Orlando, I know I'm close to the park. Something good's about to happen. But when I was down there like four times in 5 months, it was starting to wane a little bit. So I started thinking to myself, I don't know if I want to lose that feeling. Now, I told you that to tell you this. If I go now and there's long lines for everything and I get on 4 attractions, I'm not going to feel good about that. And it's going to take away a little bit about that magic that we've cultivated. You know, we've got this thing, the castle projections and the fireworks. That's not going to happen if I go now. And so I would rather keep the memories I have alive and just wait until I can get back to the parks when they're in a fashion that I'm used to seeing them in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Totally. That's the same reason why I booked my next cruise in next September. Same thing. I don't want to feel like I have this bar, right? I look forward to it. Same as you, Disney.
Yeah.
I get so excited. And if it doesn't meet my bar, I don't know, that would affect me, you know, and then I'm going to have this, I don't want to say negative, but this feeling of like not having.
I know what it is. I can't put a word on it either, but I know exactly where you're going. Yeah. Because this is the thing where, listen, obviously you have a beautiful family and kids. There are things that are above Disney in your life.
Oh, of course,
But Disney, you know, you have this is your thing. You know, you're passionate about it. You love it and you like to do it. And if you're going to do it, let's do it right. And so if it's, you know, it's not going anywhere, it's going to survive this. We're going to survive this and we'll be able to go when it's right. And the Polynesian is open again and things like that. And we'll be able to see the new refurbishments, you know, like right now, even the People Mover, it's been down like ever since the park opened. And it may sound silly, but it's one of the things I just love to get on. It absolutely goes nowhere. But when I go, I just love to get on it. And there's so many things right now that are not the way they're used to being. And to go in the Haunted Mansion and not be in the stretchy room and listen to the ghost host greet you and sit through that. It's not the same to me. Now it's better than the parks being closed. Don't get me wrong. But I'm glad they're open. We've decided to hang out, wait until next year, and we're just going to do it that much bigger next year. So that's how I'm satisfying myself to this point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Queue too, that was another thing that was announced. No indoor queues. And so you've been to Disneyland, Pirates of the Caribbean. That queue, that whole experience until you get on that boat and you do the drop. It's like my favorite part of the ride almost. So to not do that and seeing people at the Blue Bayou sit there and they're eating and it's like the twinkle in the sky, like you're out there on the bayou for real.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I never knew the name of the restaurant. I'm glad you said that because I was trying to describe to someone the other day. They asked me which one I love the best. And I said, yeah, it's kind of like when you go to Mexico and in Epcot and you're on the ride vehicle for about 3 or 4 minutes and you can see the restaurant, you can see the people, but I didn't know the name of the Blue Bayou there in California. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Cool. All right. So Miss Ruby, you ready to share with us your top 3 Disney vacations?
Yeah. Let me get my notes.
Cool. And while you're doing it, I'm going to tell people how they can find you on Instagram because listen, Ruby's a part of the show officially now. I know I've said that before, but she's a part of the show, but she has her own Instagram and things like that. We're going to put up, like we always do, all of her stuff on our Facebook page, but you can find Ruby at Ruby's Best Life. So it's Ruby's with an S, RUBYS _best_life, LIFE. And you can find her on Instagram. And also, I think you probably have as much or more content on YouTube.
I do.
Okay. Yeah.
I have Ruby's Best Life, same thing on YouTube. And I also have a Twitter too. It's kind of a duplication of my Instagram, but I have been, trying to keep up on the stories that I hear on Twitter and retweeting those. And it's all Ruby's Best Life. So pretty straightforward. One, you know all of them.
Okay. Well, I would say if you're just starting out, particularly if you're interested in a cruise, for example, which she's going to tell us about, if you're interested in seeing, because a lot of people you like the audio and that's great, but they want to see what they're getting. So Ruby's got some really great footage of some of the trips that she's taken. And I think coupled with what we're going to talk about today, that could really give you a full understanding in terms of expectation in the event that you want to take that trip yourself. So we're going to talk with Ruby today about her top 3 vacations. And fortunately for us, there's a diverse element of vacation involved because she's done the land, which would be Disneyland and Disney World. And she's done the cruises. So that would be I was going to say the ocean, but I don't want to make sense you're floating around the ocean, but she's done the water and then abroad. So we're going to talk about her visit to a Disneyland park abroad. And an additional thing, and then I'm going to be quiet, we're going to listen to Ruby. Ruby has small kids, and that's usually one of the things people are interested in knowing. Well, 2 things. Number one, how do I start booking my vacation for? Let's say, for example, you wanted to take a cruise and you wanted to go to Eastern Caribbean. How do I start that? Because to some people, it seems really big. Like, man, that's 8 days. And then I've got to do this. And I don't understand magic bands. Okay, whatever. I don't understand dining plans. How do I do all that? So we're going to talk that through. And the other thing, we were talking about going abroad, particularly with little ones. How do I do all that? Do they need a passport? And what should I bring? And what if they get a mosquito bite? Can I bring medicine? That sort of thing. They want to know all that. So we're going to try and answer as many questions for you today while we sit back and enjoy Ruby's top 3 vacations.
Yes, I love it. Okay, you want me to start with like 3 and then to 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So number 3, I would say Disneyland. Okay. I was thinking back and forth about if I wanted to say Disney World or Disneyland, but to kind of emphasize the aspect of having children, I think Disneyland is simpler to get into the whole process. So for starters, Disneyland, if you go on their site, Disneyland.go, I believe, they have Good Neighbor hotels. And the Good Neighbor hotels are on the same stretch of street as the California Adventure Park. It's actually all around. Cost-wise, they average to like $100 to $150 a night. And my favorite is the Hyatt right there, the Hyatt Place. And then they have a couple Marriotts. I like them because they have big rooms, so you can have 5-6 people in them. And they have free breakfast. Those are like big ones.
You just hit the nail on the head for me because until my oldest daughter moved out, we were everywhere we went, we were 5.
Yes.
It's going to be 5. And the most of the times, Disney was doing packages for 4. Because most entertainment companies, they'll say 4, even cruise ships, until they start building these bigger rooms. Every 4, you were good, but 5, you're gonna have to get extra room, and that always created extra costs. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Let me tell you a sneaky secret too. I haven't said this on my channel before, but if you have Marriott points and you stay at one of those Marriotts, you can book the smallest room, the cheapest cost for what you have, like let's say 4 people. And Marriott, depending on the tiers, they'll upgrade you to the next available or a suite for free, depending on your tier. So you can pay for the cheapest room, minimum you're in the night, like you're by the park, you're getting free breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Check the website and see if the suite's available, and call that day in first thing in the morning and say, hey, I have this thing, it shows you have a suite on your site. Can you upgrade me? They will upgrade you and you will not get charged. I ended up with a 2-bedroom suite that would have been like $300 a night. I paid $125.
Awesome. Man. Yeah, that is sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
Little tip right there.
That's a big tip. Yeah.
Your systems with the hotels, and try to be loyal to the hotels if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Disneyland, the hotels are right there, and it's within walking distance. You don't have to catch a shuttle or anything. I mean, they have that, but if you park on that side of Disneyland, I think that's like the west side, Hyatt or Residence Inn, you walk the length of what would be equivalent to California Adventure. You walk right up to the gates. You don't have to take a ferry or anything like Disney World. You go right into the parks. So I think that that's really convenient, and it's easy with kids. You just put them in the stroller, get their free breakfast, even grab them something on your way out in the morning, and you're there. You're in the park. So that would be my number 3 vacation for Disneyland.
So Disneyland, you're close to Disneyland. So I'm not. How would I begin that journey? So I want to go to Disneyland. What does a guy like me in Atlanta, what do I have to do?
Right.
It could be just as easy as going to the website that you just told me about.
Yeah. Some people like to do vacation packages and book travel agents and things like that. And I think that works depending on the type of people you have. When I say that, I mean like maybe you have somebody that has special needs in your group, or is living with a disability. They might need a little extra support there. Or you have small children and you're worried about like if you're going to miss something. But I actually use the app Hopper. Have you used Hopper before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It seems familiar, but I don't think I've used it enough to say yes.
The thing I love about Hopper is you put in your travel dates, you put in the amount of people, and it comes up with the cost. It's kind of like a kayak type thing where it shows you a bunch of different costs, and it will tell you based off of historical data for that month if that's a good price. If not, it will you can set a reminder. And especially if you're coming from the other coast, it's really good to have something like that, because tickets can get very expensive when you're flying across the country. And they randomly have flash sales Tuesdays, Thursdays in the morning. Hopper will do all of that for you. You can even say on there what you think is a price you'd want to spend. And when it gets to that, they'll let you know. And you can account for layovers. And, because for me, I can't have a ton of layovers with my kids. They will be on a plane. I love it. But it's not a good look.
They'll get you kicked out of the airport, huh?
So I want direct flights or night flights. And you can specify all that on Hopper. So I would say get the Hopper app. It's awesome. And then, like I said before, if you're concerned about cost, Marriott, Hyatt, those are the best values. I believe the Hyatt, I don't know if it still does, but they used to offer a shuttle even. So if you fly into Anaheim or Santa Ana Airport, they'll pick you up, no extra charge. Or if you want to do it big, keep your eye on the Disneyland hotel. I would say the same thing you were saying. The beginning of the year, get in there, lock in the price, and then keep checking. Also, this is probably irritating to the Disneyland staff. I know they're very, very good to me, though. I will call, because a lot of times I have called. For example, I have a reservation in December at the Disneyland hotel. I called and they were like, oh, we're running a weekend promotion. So actually, if you want to change your room type, it's going to be $200 off a night.
Cool.
And I'm like, sure, yeah, I want to change it,
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Now, if you have a travel agent, you maybe wouldn't have to do all that extra, but I don't mind doing that. I enjoy it. So
My question for you is going to be, have you ever used a travel agent? You seem like the type of person, because I'm that way. I'm type A, and I usually like to feel like I'm in control of stuff, and I'm not. But I like to book stuff, and I like to, where I find comfort is because my wife is somewhat. She used to be the opposite. I think she's been with me so long now, she's transitioning. But my wife's very spontaneous. We would go and visit family, for example. She's made no reservations for where we're going to sleep. I have no idea where I'm going to lay my head that night. And it's unsettling for me because I've traveled for so many years with work and all that kind of stuff. When I go wherever I'm going, I actually know where I'm going, and I have a place to abode. My wife is not that way. And so for me, when I'm booking and I'm going on trips, including Disney, I always know where we're staying. I always know what we're eating. I always know if we're driving or flying. And I usually always do it in advance. But that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. There are some folks out there that, I don't know, maybe you'll pop up this weekend, decide next weekend you want to go to Disney World and you live in Michigan. I don't know. Maybe you do that. You can do that. I don't do that.
Yeah. I have used a travel agent once for a cruise, and I would never do it again.
Really?
I think I have too much of like that control aspect. Also, one thing with travel agencies, if there is a flash sale or a reduction in cost and you catch it and it's off hours, by the time they show back up at work, it might be gone and you're stuck.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Happened to me. Yeah, because one of the things I advocate for is people to be proactive with their own vacation monitoring. Some people hate that. And maybe that's why they like travel agencies, because if you get the right one, they might monitor for you. But in my experience with the one that I went through, and then for some people that I know that have done it, outside of my one friend who I did the DAS Pass video with, they weren't actively monitoring. So I missed out on like $500 off of a cruise at one point because the travel agency didn't get back to me till the next day, and Disney Cruise was no longer having that promotion. So. Really? Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. Well, remind me, I have a story to tell you once you get to a cruise. I wanted to share something. I don't want to interrupt you now, but I wanted to share something kind of in that same vein. But anything else on Disneyland? I certainly agree. I'm all for Disneyland.
Yeah. No, I just think in recap, Disneyland would be my number 3, just because of the ease of travel. Even if you are coming from the East Coast, I think in general, getting in the park is simpler at Disneyland than at Disney World. So that's why I put it as my number 3.
Just explain one thing for us folks who don't live in Orange County or close, because I figured this out when I went to Disneyland. We know our area, but we don't necessarily know other areas. I had a expectation that Disneyland was not as far from the airport as it was. Am I hallucinating? Is it a little distance from the airport?
From Santa Ana? I think it's like,
no, I flew into LAX.
Oh yeah, no, LAX is far. Yeah. You get the best prices if you fly in and out of LAX, if you're not on the West Coast. But yes, that is far. And then you have to, traffic.
Yes. Oh my Lord.
Not great at all.
Yeah.
When I lived in Palmdale, we drove down, which should have been like maybe an hour drive. It was 2 hours to go to Disneyland because of traffic. And then somebody let their dog out of the car on the freeway. So we're like trying to help them catch their dog on the freeway in the middle of rush hour traffic on a Friday morning. And that's LA. I mean, it's things happen. You're like, what? The dog
why not? You say, oh, why not? Let's do this.
LA is definitely way farther. If you fly into Santa Ana.
Santa Ana is the better option.
And there's a ton of options, right? That's another confusing thing. In Orlando, it's like Orlando or Fort Lauderdale, right? And that's kind of
Fort Lauderdale is far.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's far.
Fun. Whereas California, there's literally Long Beach, Santa Ana, LA, Ontario, Burbank. There's a ton of airports in that area. So yeah, Santa Ana.
Cool. Santa Ana is 1. All right. So Disneyland's your 3rd. Number 2. What do we have for number 2?
I thought long and hard about this one. And I'm going to put Tokyo Disney Sea
No.
number 2, not number 1. I know.
Oh, I could have sworn that was going to be your number 1.
So for starters, if you go to Japan, it is amazing. It is amazing. And a trip of a lifetime. I've gone several times for work. And the third time I had the opportunity, my family came and we did take the bullet train over to Tokyo from Nagoya. And I would say the flight over can be challenging with children. It is about, from the West Coast, it's 13 to 14 hours just to Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
That can be hard. So, and it's also a change in daylight, right? So here it's daytime, there it's night. So you have to account for that. I would say that we went on ANA. It was a great airline and awesome. So getting over there is tough and it can be expensive. It can be very expensive depending on the time of year you go. But once you go there, it is affordable. And amazing. Right. So for the bullet train is like pretty much, I would say, the predominant transportation for tourists, taking the trains everywhere. It's very, think New York, but better, fast, efficient, you can get there. And one thing that's really cool is if you compare the US currency to Japan, you can get more, and the tickets to go to Disney Sea or to Disneyland was equivalent to about $70 US per person, right? And
no way.
Yes, and if you stay at not necessarily the Disney hotels, but what would be equivalent to their Good Neighbor hotels, so within the Disney hug, if you will. One, they have a train that picks you up and takes you right to the resort entrance, and 2, they offer you special hours to access the park and also special ticketing. So cost wise, it is, when you're in the States, you're expecting this much for I think Disney World right now is $120. I was looking for December.
You mean per person?
Per person for one park.
Well, you may look again today. It could be different.
Just all over.
Well, you know what they did? Disney World did. I can't speak for Disneyland, but I assume they're on the same system. Last year, at some point, they went to that hotel type of graduated system where, depending on the occupancy of the park, let's say, for example, if it's really full, then the number goes, up. If they're, really, I don't know, they've never been empty, but the number will go down. I want to say we average between $120, $135 a head anytime we go. And that's November, second week of November.
Wow.
So plus tax. Right.
And if you get a park hopper, it's like through the roof, right? Or is that for park?
Oh my Lord. Yeah. If you get if you get a park, okay, let's not ever do that. So the one day is what we're talking about. I always advise people do not get a park hopper for one day, because I don't see how you're going to get the value of it. I just don't see how. They're going to charge you for it, but you're not going to get the value for it. You would need to, in my from my view, you would need to be there at least 3 days to get the value out of it. Because let's say if you're there for 2 days, you may be able to get some value out of 2 parks, 2.5 parks. You're not going to get 4 parks in a day or 2. And I want to say, to add a park hopper, I'm not looking at the website, but it's not cheap. It's $50 or more. It's like $69 or something. I don't know. I don't want to misquote. While you're talking, I'll look it up so we don't give out bad information. But it does really inflate the cost. Yes,
it does. And like you said, right now the hours are shortened for Disney World. But Disney Tokyo Sea, it is the only place that you can go to, like a sea-based park. Mm-hmm. And I will be honest, we bought tickets to Disney Sea, and we did not at the time originally buy tickets to Tokyo Disney, because the Disneyland equivalent, because we were told by friends that it was the same. So we go through Disney Sea. It's awesome. Not a ton of people. And one thing I've also noticed, I don't know if it's culturally, but in Japan, a lot of the locals were there looking for merchandise or to wait for shows. Whereas me, and I don't know if it's in a thing with me or what, but I was like all about trying to get on the rides. So the lines for the rides weren't that long.
Right.
But to get a good seat for one of their shows or to get into the store to buy, I am drawing a blank, but it's like a little bear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very popular, and I can't. What is his name? It's brown.
Yeah.
It has that little. Yeah,
I
I know what
don't
you're
remember.
talking about.
It's a big deal out there, though, and
Yeah.
people were waiting for hours to get into the store to buy this bear. So yeah, Disney Sea is awesome, and they had like Agrabah, like it was like a land. I'm drawing a blank too on the official name of it, but it was all themed around Agrabah, and it was amazing. And they had curry popcorn, and you could smell the curry popcorn. It was so good.
Really?
That's a big deal.
Oh
Also,
man.
the popcorns that they have out there too. So every land will
Yeah.
have a different theme of
Yeah.
popcorn. So Disney Sea is amazing. And so around 3 o'clock, we realized, you know what? We're in Tokyo. Let's go to Disneyland. And so we went to Disneyland, and it's different than here. I don't know why I even believed this person that was telling me. It was completely different. Even Main Street is different. When you walk in.
Oh wait, they told you it was going to be the same as Disneyland in California?
Yeah, it's
Oh
so.
no. No.
I don't know
Oh
why. I don't know why I believe people sometimes. And so it's
no.
different. And
Isn't there a Main Street covered? Like
it is
is it
exactly.
inside? Yeah, that looks super
Inside,
awesome.
it's like, I wouldn't say it's like contained, but it is covered because their weather is not like Florida or California where it's consistently hot. When we went,
Yeah.
like a few days before. So yes, that's different. I mean, their haunted mansion is completely different. And then also something interesting about the US parks is Disney closes at, like, let's say midnight, but for an hour, their food will be open, their shops will be open. In Tokyo, when it's closed, it's like for real closed. Like everything is closed, everybody
Like
leaves.
everybody out.
Yeah.
Everybody gotta go.
Still an hour, and they're like, no, bye. Like, wait, what? So we had
Yeah,
to leave.
like, get on the train, lady. Let's go.
Yeah. Absolutely, I recommend, if you're a big Disney fan, go to Tokyo Disney and go to Disney Sea and go to Disneyland. It is amazing. And stay at a hotel if you have the opportunity. We stayed at the Hilton, and I'll see if I can find you a picture, Kelly, but it was like a themed room, and it was not super expensive, and we caught a train into, or I guess it'd be equivalent to like a monorail.
Yeah.
Right to the entrance, and it was awesome. So,
You know, I've watched a lot of footage on the different lands, Tokyo being one of them. Did you find the theming to be just extraordinary? This is what I hear from people who go. They say the theming in the lands are just extraordinary.
yes, absolutely. And I think that goes back to what I was saying with it. I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing, but it feels like the Japanese culture is to appreciate details and to appreciate the story behind things.
Mhm.
And I think that they've themed each ride like that. There's so much attention to detail, and it's so beautiful. Even the character interactions are a little bit different. There was, when you enter into Disney Sea, there is kind of like it almost looks like an Epcot version of Paris. And you can go there and see like the characters from Pinocchio. And they just kind of wander around. I didn't actually even see a line where people like normally stand up and just wait. They were just interacting with people, and it felt more intimate to me than some of the character interactions I've had in the US based parks. Not the cruises. The cruises are
Right.
league in its own, but
Oh yeah.
the whole, for sure.
Okay.
Details.
So let me ask you this: traveling there, particularly with the little ones, because I may have had problems on a 13-hour flight, to be honest with you. But little ones, a little bit of a challenge. So probably recommend maybe red eye or, late night, early morning type situations for that. But was there anything else where you thought, it was a little difficult for the little guys at all? Food, maybe. Did you have any trouble finding anything? I don't know about you, but my kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So with international flights, I definitely recommend looking up what you're allowed to pack to take and take food. because they do have the food option and you can book your meals ahead of time. I would recommend calling the airline if you can to see what the meals were. But by the grace of God, when I went with my son, I was in business class, so we got a lot of food, so I was able to find something that worked for him. But yeah, I would say evening is best to fly so they can sleep majority of the flight, and knowing what food you have, call the airline ahead of time to understand what their meal packages are. I would even go as far as to trying to Google it to see, like, flights from Miami to Japan, what type of food offerings do they have?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember seeing gluten. I'm not gluten intolerant, but I have friends that are. I don't remember seeing any of that kind of packaging information. Only thing I saw was like maybe nut allergies or soy allergies. So
Yeah.
that kind of attention to that might vary too.
Sure.
But that's
now when you're in the parks though. What about, Ruby, when you're in the parks or at the hotel? Did you have any? I would imagine Disneyland anywhere is getting a lot of American and English speaking folks there, but Tokyo Disneyland, I'm just trying to figure out, are you in the Disney bubble? Are there a lot of options for folks that are coming in terms of cuisine, or was it primarily Japanese?
It was primarily Japanese. In fact, the rides are in Japanese, the language. It's not English. From time to time, like kind of like here, where they will make an announcement in English and then say it again in various languages. They would do that there as well. But when you were going on the rides, majority of the rides were not in English. So I don't.
Did that impact how you felt about the attraction though? That you obviously you probably know most of them anyway, but
I didn't. I mean, I couldn't get all the details right, like, but I could hear the excitement, and visually, like we talked about, it was really amazing to see. And then the fact that I was even just there was amazing. Yeah. So cool. I would say it's a good experience. I think it's always good for any person to experience what it's like to be in the minority. And what I mean by that is either you're not speaking the language, or you're not familiar with maybe all the cultural details and all of that. I think every person on this planet should experience that at least a few times to see what it's like. And then, when you go back to your home state or your home place and you get to experience, I know everything here, everything I figured out, it's comfortable. You appreciate that more. And you can also understand other people who have a different experience when they're coming to your country or to your US based parks.
Sure. Okay. And for booking purposes, did you do this one yourself, or did you contact a lovely cast member and they assisted you? How do we advise our listeners? What's the best way for them to do it?
Okay. So for international, I would definitely when you decide where you're going to book, I relied on the Disney website to recommend the hotels. I didn't try to go find my own. And I booked, and then I talked to the concierge or the representative for that hotel pretty consistently, and relied on them to let me know what I needed to know. Because I think when you're going to another country, there's so many elements that you might not think about, even just the aspect of getting from the airport to the hotel. Can you read a map that's not in English? Does your phone work out there? Do you need some type of special plan to use your phone there? When you land in another country, Google might come up differently in a different language than what you're used to in the US. So all of those things need to be understood. So I would contact the phone company to understand your phone's capabilities if it's going to switch languages on you.
Good point.
Download an app where you can translate what you're hearing, or even taking pictures and translating the words. Talk to the concierge at the hotel you're going to stay at. I went through Disney itself for the hotel, and like I said, the pricing was not bad for Japan. So those are the big tips, and be just open to a new experience. Otherwise, don't go. If you don't want to try something new, don't go. But if you're open to experience, it's worth it. It's awesome.
Listen, that's on my bucket list, and that is something that is definitely happening. I don't know if it's going to happen before I go to Alani, but it is certainly on the list. So
Alani's on my list too.
Yeah,
Disney out there, invite us.
I know, right? All right. So number one, I know it's on the water. I just got to figure out where are we going on the water.
We are going to Spain, and we are doing a transatlantic. That was the all-time my
It would
all-time.
have to be, because I was like, oh my Lord, yes.
Japan. I think the reason it beat out Japan is just for the amount of time it took to travel.
Hmm.
Okay, so I recommend everybody, if you're going to do a transatlantic or trans-Pacific or a repositioning cruise,
Right.
do those. Why? Across the board, they are cheaper. They're cheaper by person because you spend more time at sea. Disney specifically, I feel their sea days are worth their weight in gold. I actually prefer cruises that have more sea days than days at port.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
some people that have issues being on the water, yeah. Do you get sick at sea? You're good to go, right?
I'm good to go. However, my daughter and my wife, we were in the Caribbean one year and the waters got a little rough where you couldn't, go into the front of the ship and that kind of stuff. They stayed in the room the whole day. We're good to go. Me, my son, my youngest daughter, but my wife and they get a little queasy sometimes. But I like you on Disney cruise though. I'll be specific on Disney cruise. Days at sea are fantastic. There's so much entertainment and it's orchestrated and organized in a way. I'm telling you, I don't want to badmouth these other cruise lines, but Disney just has better entertainment. Particularly, you have little ones. Even if you don't, my kids went to the camps, things like that when they got on the ships. They didn't want to come back with us.
Oh,
Literally, yeah, they were like, we're good, we're good. You go to the private island the same way. They wanted to go to the kids' camps. And then they make friends. And of course, then there's all that. But can you explain to folks, I've been in transportation for 100 years and I used to be over ships and steamship lines and vessels and these sort of things. So the repositioning, I know exactly what that is, but a lot of folks may not know what that means and what's happening. So can you explain to folks what repositioning cruises are?
Yes. So I will say majority of cruise lines, they put their boats at certain places during certain times of the years. For example, Disney Wonder and the Disney Magic, those are the two smaller boats. They are normally in the, I guess, they go to Europe for the summer and then they come back to the US for like the winter months. And the reason is because when you have a smaller boat, you can maneuver through canals, get to smaller ports than other massive boats like the Fantasy or the Dream, if we're going to be talking Disney. So what they do is they allow people to come onto the boat while they're moving the boat to a different location. And for whatever reason, maybe it's during odd times of years, usually repositioning cruises are like April or May or September, October, because you're going to the different places for the different seasons. They just are cheaper. And depending on what big body of water you're crossing, it will be like a transatlantic. So you're crossing the Atlantic Ocean or trans-Pacific or just straight up repositioning, like going from Australia to the United States. So
how many days were you at? How many days was your total cruise for the transatlantic? Because you have to take a flight back to the US, right?
Yes. So we were 13 nights. And I was not afraid of that number at all, but I definitely had people in my party that were nervous about being on a boat for that long. And it's not the first time I've done a cruise where we were on a body of water for a long time, but it was amazing. And I will say for Disney, it is worth your weight in gold to do 7 days or more. I would not recommend doing 3 or 5 day cruises on a Disney cruise line. If you're worried about, am I going to get sick? I would recommend finding out on a Carnival cruise or maybe Royal Caribbean, like something that's not priced as high, but don't do that on a Disney cruise. Disney cruise, go all out, 7 or more nights.
Yeah. To your point, they're not inexpensive, but they are wonderful. And if you go on them, the first time we did Disney cruise, we only did like a 3-day. And we learned then that was not enough days. That was not enough days. So we're in the mindset of minimum 5 days. It depends on our schedules all the time. And of course, when you got kids in college and this, that, and the other, 5 days seems like an eternity if you can get everybody together for those 5 days. But the last cruise that we took was 8 days. And some people in my party are like, man, it's a long time. I was like, you've no idea. It would be day 6 before you know it. And you will be looking like, man, I could use another 2 or 3 days and we'll be heading back to port. So, but to your point, 13 days, and I can imagine you probably didn't make a lot of stops because there's only 1 or 2 islands in the transatlantic. So unless you, where'd you guys stop? Bermuda maybe? Or
no, it was out of Miami, and it was.
Oh, no, you didn't stop in Bermuda then.
Until we got to Portugal.
Okay.
Well, I believe was the first stop. Don't quote me on that, but it was definitely Portugal. We had 2 stops, and then the following 3 or 4 stops were in Spain, and then we stayed in Madrid for a few nights.
Nice.
But I want to tell everybody, don't be afraid. Do it, because if you price out going to a Disney hotel, okay, just to stay at a hotel, if you get a good price, it's like in Disneyland, it's going to be like $300 a night. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say $350 easy a night.
Easy. That does not include food. That does not include
parking.
Right? Transportation. On a Disney cruise, you get your room. You get to go dine with characters. That is included. They show up. You get access to characters throughout. And they have on the app, I have a couple videos on the Navigator app. They will tell you where the characters are going to be. And when you're at a longer cruise, the lines for meeting characters are going to be shorter because people have more opportunities to do so. Additionally, like you mentioned the kids areas, they get access to the characters all day long. They have special stuff just for them. Like I don't know if I told you this, but I went to go pick my baby up from the nursery and he was sitting in Ariel's lap. Just like,
awesome.
Go get him. And I didn't have my camera, but she's like, hi, I'm your baby. And I'm like, I love you. Like,
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But
yeah. You can't beat that. We came back to pick up my son, and he was in the toddler's room, and they were being read to by one of the characters. You know, the bedtime story literally was from the characters that they're talking about. So you just can't beat it. And of course, there's movie theater on board. And one of the things that I like as an adult, when I go on a cruise, I don't do this any other time of the year, but I fancy it as if I should make this part of my lifestyle. So we'll see. I like the idea of getting dressed for dinner, like every day. And after dinner, going to see a show. That's the best part of the cruise for me. Secondary is where we're going. But the fact that I'm going to be dressed for dinner and I didn't have to cook, and then we're going to this wonderful show, that is the best part of any cruise for me. And my kids are like, Dad, you're crazy. But I love that part of the cruise. So if either of those are off, chances are I'm probably not going to have a great cruise. If the food's not very good, or if the show, because this happened. We went to the show on, and I won't say the cruise line, but it wasn't very good. And the reason it wasn't very good is because I had already been on a Disney cruise. And you're always comparing. You're always comparing. I'm just telling you, I'm not saying not go on the other cruise lines, but maybe do them first and then do the Disney one, because the Disney entertainment was absolutely what you would see at Fox, what you would see at Disney World. It was superb. It was, you really felt like you went to a show. You probably felt like you probably should have paid for this, like extra, because it was that good. And every night I didn't have to worry. I walked into that theater and I sat down and I just wanted to see what they were going to do. And I didn't get disappointed any night. So,
right.
That's
Absolutely.
me. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I've been posting Tiana's place a lot because I've just been missing it so much. And
yeah. I would like to go back there. Yeah. Let me ask you something about the cruise. In terms of, so you go to Madrid. You guys, I know there's ways to do it without passports, but do you prefer passports for everyone? And if so, does your little one get a passport, or do you go through the trouble of doing it? How do you advise? Because I've traveled, on cruises, outside the country before, And I think the first time we did it, we didn't have passports. And then after that, I said, everybody needs a passport. And so we've had passport for years now. But I remember doing it without. It can be done, but what do you recommend?
Yes, I 1,000% recommend having a passport and a birth certificate for children that are under the age of 6. It's not a big deal to get the passport done. I go to Costco, they prop him up on a pillow and they take his picture and then fill out the application and send it in. I recommend that because it's the most common used verification of citizenship. And I think that that's usually the most straightforward way to go. And then I also bring my the birth certificate of the child as well, because I don't want anybody playing games saying, it's not your kid
Just
or something.
in case. Yeah.
And I just also want to bring up, because what we did do is when we docked in Spain, we docked in Barcelona and we flew to Madrid. And when you fly in a different country, you should verify with the airline whether you have the lap baby option. Because I assumed that my child was going to be a lap baby and free, and I could just put him on my reservation last minute. No. They they charged me for it, and I had to go to the airport, stand in a separate line, almost missed our flight to get the baby added to the reservation.
Oh my goodness.
And I tried to call ahead and do it that way, and they didn't allow me to do that. I had to go to the airport, wait in this line, and do it that way. So make sure you understand fully what the requirements are for children, and to your point, what the requirements are to have access to the airplane for that airplane.
You know what? You just made me think of another show idea, because we've traveled quite a bit. And of course, you guys have as well. We're going to come back with a list of top 10 questions that we've generated from our travel. So we'll have a total of 20 between myself and Ruby. And we're going to go through those with you, because what Ruby just stated is something that you won't know until it happens to you. And when it happens, it was too late for Ruby, but it's not for you. So we'll share that type of information with you to help you avoid those type of situations, because the last thing you want to do is be on vacation and then have to work, or then not have it done seamlessly, because something like that could really spoil your day or your vacation. Now, it probably didn't make you feel good about the day because you were rushing and trying to get the baby and all this other stuff, but at least it happened. You were able to move on. I see so many times people have issue on vacation, and man, if you're going to have an issue, oh God, I don't want you to have it on your vacation, because, God bless you. Yeah. And also, this is what I was going to tell you about the cruise thing. Carnival Cruise Line, for whatever you want to think about Carnival Cruise Line, I've been on at least 2 or 3 Carnival cruises. Number one is not Disney, but they don't pretend like they are. So I know what I'm getting when I go. Mm-hmm. And I'm clever enough to know how to pick a vessel. Like, I don't pick where I'm going. I pick the vessel that I want to be on first, because that's going to be more satisfactory. That's more of a requirement versus where I'm going. Because sometimes where you're going, I don't want to ride that vessel was done this day and then it was reestablished this day. I'm not going to get on that vessel because I'll have a certain experience. But this is the newest vessel. This vessel has 4D theater. This vessel has kids clubs. This vessel has sushi, or whatever your deal is. You have to go with the vessel.
That goes to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one you're talking about for Carnival, or are you just saying in general?
No, in general, because I actually booked a Carnival cruise years ago. We had a fantastic time, though. Yeah. But when I first got on it, it looked like I was in a 70s disco. I was like, oh my God, how old is this vessel? Mm-hmm. We had a great trip, but the ship was super old. It was super old. So anyway, we're going to bring more of that content to you as well. But what I wanted to tell you, Ruby, was this is what happened to us when you talk about losing opportunity and losing money on these particular promotions. My wife is on Facebook quite a bit, and we were out to eat one day, and we were already booked to go on Carnival Cruise, 8-day Eastern Caribbean, Aruba, Curacao, blah, blah, blah. And we were just regular booking, whatever. We had a family stateroom. Well, there was something that came across Facebook that said, hey, you should get this Carnival VIP. Carnival VIP. It'll get you, you get on the ship first, you disembark first, embarkation, you the first, you don't have to stand in line. And when you get on the ship, they're just special things that they do for VIPs. So let's say you need to go to concierge or customer service. Everybody else is standing in line trying to figure out why the refrigerator is not cold or whatever. You just walk up with the VIP thing and get your deal and go. Do you know this VIP for my whole family for 5 people was only $50?
Wow.
It was $50. But what it saved is, when you first get to the terminal and everybody's in line, particularly if you don't get there on time, and everybody's dragging their bag after they've kind of checked in outside, everybody's kind of going through that wiggle waggle line. They had a VIP line, no one in it. And I said, hey, we have Carnival VIP. He said, well, there's your line, go. Nice. We walked past I don't know how many people straight onto the ship. It cost $50. Totally. And guess what? We still have it.
Yeah.
We still have it. It's still in effect. I get emails from them on a regular basis, promotions, Carnival VIP. You should look it up, because I was like, I had no idea. And it was $50 that saved us so much. Yeah. So much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Carnival does stay with the deals, though, I'll tell you that. And they're easy for if you see a change in cost or something like a promotion, they're really easy to call up and they'll make it work. I'll say that's one thing with Disney.
Well, okay. I'm going to tell you something that happened with us. This was some years ago when we went on our first Disney cruise. Mm-hmm. We booked with Disney directly. So we booked with the cast member. And there was a change. There was a change in the rate. And they called us. I think we saved to the tune of, I don't know, a couple $100 a person. That happened with Disney, and it also happened with Carnival. Both times they called. Yeah, they sure did. The lady we had with Carnival was awesome. She was on it. She explained to me what you and I are talking about. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought once you booked it, this is your price. I mean, why would the steamship line call you and say, hey, you can save some money, I'm gonna go ahead and make this adjustment for you? I don't know why they would, but I'm glad they did, because it saved us a lot on the Carnival cruise. It saved us a lot. And if she hadn't called, I wouldn't have known. And we just ran across the VIP thing online. So we'll come back, you and I, we'll pick up some gems like that, because I know you have more and I have more, and we'll bring them back to the audience and say, okay, here are our top 10 questions and things that you should know when you're traveling, particularly with little ones, and you're talking about specifics as it relates to documentation, flying types of things, the quantity of milk and all these sorts of things that you can or can't have. So we'll try and answer some of those questions, but we'll also just give tips, our best tips. So we'll give our top 10 questions, and then we'll give our 3 to 5 best tips. So guys, the next time Ruby's on, that's what we're going to be talking about. So make sure you check back. Ruby's going to be with us. I'm committing her without her knowledge. I'm committing her.
I like it. Here to stay.
Listen, you're part of the family now. So at least once a month. It could be more depending on our schedules. And bless her heart, she makes it work all the time, because we're on different coasts. So there's a significant time difference, and she has little ones, and I've got other folks living in my house as well. And so we're all trying to accommodate and still be, responsible in terms of putting out some really good content. So Ruby, I really appreciate you being with us today. I feel like I've learned a lot from listening to you today as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, I'm good. You're so good. You're on it. Your questions are really good. And then they drive. I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole all the time with this,
We're almost the same person. I can tell by listening to you talk that you're going to ask the extra question, even if you're talking to Disney cast members. Okay, well, what if I do this? And what if I do that? I'm the same way. And I'm always looking out for the quickest and the best routes and the ways and these sorts of things, because I've got to tell you the story of the year. I took my extended family to Walt Disney World for Christmas. We rented a house in a gated community about 2 miles from Disney World, and it was 18 people.
Whoa, that's a lot of people.
Wow. You know what? I thought, man, what have you got yourself into? But it was the most fantastic trip I've ever had. It was great. Pulling 17 people behind you in any park. You know, you think about Walt Disney World, how busy it is during Christmas time. There were 18 of us and very little to do with fast passes and stuff. Yeah. We just had a ball. But we'll talk that kind of stuff through and talk about how we do it and how you can do it if you decide to do it, because I'm always provocating for folks to go to Disney for Christmas. And even though I'm not going this year, I will still say, if you're in Florida, if you're in Orlando, or if you just want to go down for the day and you don't mind it, go, because the parks need your support. They need your support. The cast members need to work, and please go. And even if you don't go, shop Disney. Do something to where you're putting some money into that into that jar, if you will, because my daughter was a cast member for a while. She still has friends that are cast members, and so many of those young people just need to continue to work. So let's support the passion Disney where we can, and let's hope Disneyland opens very, very soon.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll be watching closely.
We will, and we'll keep everybody up to date.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, thank you for being on. You're our West Coast connection, and thank you for updating us on Disneyland. And we'll keep watching it, and we'll post all Ruby's information, as we always do, on Facebook. And I'll plead with you to please go check out her YouTube page and subscribe, because Ruby's going to be, hanging out downtown Disney and periodically and things like that. And she'll be able to at least keep you in tune as to what's going on with the holiday decor. So I don't know, Ruby, maybe they put up some decor and different things in downtown Disney.
Yeah, just slightly. Mostly it's just like the posters, and then they've updated all of the like treats that you can buy, Halloween themed. But
okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I missed. We did a show not long ago on the eats and treats of the fall.
Yeah.
But if I was close to the park, I would definitely be going like every weekend just to check out, what I could eat. But it looks really good. Most of the stuff I like is, the treats and the sweets. So
yeah, me too.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us this week at My Disney Brain. If you've not done so already, subscribe and follow us and all those good things. And we will continue to put out really good Disney content that support you and hold you over until your next Disney World vacation. Thanks, guys. And I hope you have a magical day.
Bye.